Welcome to JMJ Recaps. Today, I will show you a science fiction thriller film from 2011, titled Limitless. Spoilers ahead. Watch out, and take care. Eddie Morra is a struggling author in New York. As he fails to get his life in order, his girlfriend Lindy breaks up with him, over his lack of motivation and seriousness toward his life. He meets his ex-wife Melissa's brother Vernon, who asks about his work. When Eddie reveals he has been experiencing some problems in completing his book, Vernon tells him about a drug, NZT, and says it will help him with his creative problems. Upon his question about the drug, Vernon informs that scientists have developed this drug to activate specific receptors in the brain that help improve mental efficiency. Eddie hesitates to take it, but later decides to take it before going back to his apartment. He meets his landlady, who yells at him for not paying in time. As he listens to her, the drug starts to show its effects, and he manages to calm her down. With his improved brain activity, he helps her in completing her law school assignment, and sleeps with her. As he comes back to the apartment, the drug urges him to clean the mess, and make it tidy. He thinks the drug has cleared his mind about things he wanted to do and showed him the right path. While still on the drug, he rearranges his apartment, and writes most of his book before going to bed. The next morning, the drug wears off, but he still has the book he wrote, so he presents it to the editor, requesting her to give it a read, and she loves it. After coming back, he decides to meet Vernon, and ask about this magical drug. Upon his request, Vernon agrees to give him more, but not before asking him to run his errands. When he comes back, he gets shocked to see someone has not only turned the place upside down, but killed Vernon as well. He calls 911 to inform about the murder, and as he waits, he figures out someone has killed Vernon in order to get his supply of NZT. He decides to find it for himself, and recovers his stash, just in time before the police arrive. While being investigated at the police station, he receives a call from Melissa, who asks whether Vernon gave him some stuff or not, but he does not tell her. He manages to satisfy the police, and gets Vernon's cash, as well as the drug stash. He starts taking a pill every day, and it works wonders for him. He is able to finish his book, learn new skills, and languages. Eddie feels like he has the information about everything, and always impresses people with all the knowledge he has. Things change drastically in his life, and he turns from a shy, reserved person to the center of attention in every gathering. He makes a lot of new friends, including Kevin, who offers him a job at his company. Eddie soon decides to invest in the stock market, but realizes he needs more capital to move forward. In his hunt for money, he meets a guy Gennady, who agrees to lend him money, but threatens him to return it in time. Eddie uses the money, and quickly hits off, making $2 million in just 4 days. His remarkable progress catches the attention of everyone, and he starts getting a lot of job offers, but decides to join Kevin. While working with him, Kevin informs about a meeting with investment tycoon Carl Van Loon, and asks him to be present there. He meets Lindy again, and impresses her with his new personality, and they get back together. While going out with her, Eddie realizes that a suspicious man has started following him everywhere. In the meeting with Carl, he impresses him with his knowledge, but before moving forward, he asks him to study the possible merger of his company with Hank Atwood's. Eddie gets overwhelmed by Carl's positive response, and thinks it's just the beginning of a lot more projects for him. After a successful meeting with Carl, Eddie experiences a short episode of memory loss, and starts running around the city without even realizing it. He comes across a group of bullies, but unintentionally remembers all self-defense tips, which he ever heard or watched, and manages to knock them down. He also spends a lot of time at the club, where he meets a woman, and makes out with her. The next day, he wakes up, without remembering any details about the last night, and calls it a time skip which he experienced. Kevin calls him to come over for the meeting with Carl, and he reluctantly agrees, as he is still trying to figure out what happened to him. During the meeting, he hears a TV report about the murder of a woman at a hotel, and recognizes her to be the one he met last night. After failing to concentrate, he comes back to his apartment, thinking whether he killed the woman, but he still has no idea about her. While thinking about his time skip, he receives a call from Melissa, who again asks if Vernon has given him something. She warns him not to take it, because it can be dangerous for him. Realizing that she knows about NZT, Eddie invites her over to talk, and she reluctantly agrees. He goes through Vernon's diary again, and retrieves the contact numbers of his other potential customers. As he calls them one by one, he gets shocked to know that 3 of them are dead, and others are in a very serious condition. He gets worried, but before he can think of anything, the man in the trench coat starts chasing him again, and he barely manages to escape. He meets Melissa at the restaurant, and gets surprised to see her deteriorated health. She mentions the drug, and reveals she also took it, and it did wonders for her, just like it did for Eddie, but then she stopped taking it, and got sick. He gets worried, and starts to panic by saying, he has been taking it a lot. She tries to calm him down, by saying maybe it was a different batch, and they fixed the bugs. He tells her, that he just stopped taking it, but she advises him, to dose it down at first, otherwise, it might have serious side effects on him. He asks, if she knows about the people who make it, but she denies having any information about it. Gennady comes back, asking for his money, and starts fighting with him. During the argument, he spots the pill in Eddie's hand, and swallows it before leaving. Eddie's condition gets worse. He goes to meet Lindy, who gets worried about his condition, and intends to take him to the hospital, but he refuses to go. He asks about the pill instead, and tells her everything about taking NZT. He asks Lindy to get the pills for him from her apartment, and she agrees. She gets the pill, but the same man starts following her this time. She asks for help from two strangers, but the man stabs both of them, and continues the chase. After finding a safe place to hide, she calls Eddie to inform him about that suspicious man. She gets scared, and can't find a way out, so Eddie advises her to take the pill, because it will help her think through, and she unwillingly takes it, as there is no other way out. The pills start to work, and Lindy outruns him, making it back to her office, where she gives it to Eddie. The next morning, he apologizes to her, for what happened last night, but she seems worried. She tells him, that she has experienced how the pill works, and it completely changes a person. She rivals when she took it, she did things she could never imagine. She gets concerned about Eddie's health, and asks him to stop taking it. He reveals, he is already planning to get off of it, but not before making a secure future, for him and Lindy. Gennady comes over again, and asks for the pills again. Eddie gives him some, in order to buy some more time, and hires security for him. He starts working with Carl for the merger, and finds a scientist, asking him to reverse engineer the pill, to make new ones for him. Meanwhile, he learns to manage the dosage, and his eating habits, to minimize the blackout, and other side effects. After a few days, the police officer meets him again, and reveals, the eyewitnesses are considering him the suspect, in the murder at the hotel. While getting suspicious of him, he starts asking more questions, but Eddie satisfies him. After failing to remember anything about that night, Eddie hires a lawyer, to help him cover up the murder, because he does not want any of his new business partners to know about it. He attends another meeting between the two companies, and helps them finalize the details about the merger. As the meeting ends, both Carl and Eddie spot something is wrong with Atwood, but they cannot figure it out. After the successful deal, Carl offers him a job, to work on long-term projects with him, and he accepts it. Meanwhile, he realizes the adversity of the situation, as someone attacks his hotel room, in order to find NZT, so he decides to move to his penthouse, with improved security. Gennady meets him, and asks for more NZT, threatening to expose his secret to his colleagues. Atwood does not show up for the next meeting, and his wife informs them about his serious medical condition. As she leaves, Eddie realizes, the man who was following him is actually Atwood's bodyguard, and Atwood was on NZT as well. He comes over for the police lineup, where his attorney steals his stash, but he has no idea about it. When he comes over to Carl, he informs him about the news leak, about the merger, and accuses him of doing it, but he refuses. He asks Eddie's advice, to deal with the situation, and Eddie realizes he missed his dose. He tries to take it from the coat, but realizes, someone has stolen it from him. After resuming the meeting, he receives a parcel, with his bodyguard's chopped hands inside. He runs back to his place, but Gennady raids it to get more NZT. At first, Eddie tries to attempt suicide, because he knows, the pill would kill him anyway. Soon, he changes his mind, and decides to take his last pill, to fight against Gennady and his men. He recovers it from his stuff, but loses it after getting attacked. Gennady injects himself with the drug, informing Eddie, this is the best way to increase its effectiveness, while minimizing the side effects. He intends to torture Eddie, to find out the information about the pill, but he kills him and his accomplices. Meanwhile, Atwood dies due to his serious illness. Eddie goes to the hospital, and informs the man, that the attorney has stolen the drug from him, but did not give it to Atwood. After hearing this, he agrees to help him recover it from the attorney. A year later, Eddie has managed to retain his wealth, published his book, and is now a senator in New York. Carl comes over for a meeting, and informs him, that he has taken over a pharmaceutical company, that makes NZT. He informs Eddie about knowing his secret, and assures a limitless supply if he helps him in his objectives. Eddie refuses to work with him and discloses he doesn't need more supplies because he has reverse engineered the drug and perfected it to minimize side effects, and later got off of it, so he is currently not taking NZT. He meets Lindy over for lunch and talks to the waiter in Chinese. The end. Thank you for watching. Subscribe if you'd like to see more videos like this.